Okay, so in doing my case study, Powtoon, represent a case study, I'm evaluating for goal. Let's see. Let me get into my goal here for 3.2. So I'm looking at students will synthesize, apply, and present research related to instructional design theories and models. So I'm presenting this case study here, which I really enjoyed doing. I like working with Powtoon. Unfortunately, it I spend as much time trying to um, use the technology correctly, just tweaking it, trying to get the text to fill on the page, the effects to slide in. I realize I'm not as good as Powtoon as I would like to be, but I did like the finished result, and I'm going to look through it in SlideShare now. But the movie obviously is probably better, and I've got the music turned off. So the case study that I did was for a guy named John, who was an instructional designer, and his task was basically to convert the entire graduate studies program of Rolling Hills University School of Social Work from an on-campus program to a fully online program. As you can imagine, uh, one of the reasons they were going online is because they were having some trouble, some difficulties. They had trouble maintaining enrollment, and a lot of the potential students were spread out across the country, unable to move to get to this work. You know, a lot of this graduate program is for our people that are already professionals. Maybe people already have families. So maintaining the enrollment in one location was really difficult. And so unless the enrollment increases, the program may be shut down in 12 months. So he had a task that was quite difficult ahead of him. So the team, there's an instructional designer, a teaching and learning coordinator, a chair of social work, instructional designer. The tech team was a limited availability because they were working with a lot of other things. And then 4 professors and then a graduate student representative. That's the who. So how can they convert the program to fully online? So they met to brainstorm, and a lot of the events in the case study was I won't call them outliers or group outliers, but some of them definitely were that they pointed out a lot of what could go wrong or how hard this would be, and they weren't immediately on board. So Jan, one of the people on the committee, pointed out that graduate classes are smaller, graduate classes use seminar methods, and that there's going to be some new technological requirements. Do we have them all? One department concern across the board was that the quality of students admitted to the program had declined, in their opinion, and so an online program would allow for a bigger pool of students to pull from and perhaps increase their selectivity among students. So Frank, the graduate student, says, you know, this program is definitely worth saving. Students graduating have found gainful employment. Many of them found employment even before graduation. Online will help graduate students with increased flexibility, and online will allow for growth and diversity. It's different, but different doesn't always mean not equal or not even better. So Frank is all for it. Roy noted that other programs at RHU have experienced a lot of success in going fully online, and that the technology team will be able to help, and that technology absolutely have what it takes to make this happen. So that was positive. And John points out that the faculty that are involved in taking their courses online would have a lot of upfront work, and there's a lot of commitment to design the courses, to attend professional development and training in order to understand the LMS and understand, you know, that working online is a different venue. You have to have an extra toolbox, not just your regular teaching toolbox. You got to have your digital toolbox, right? And so, excuse me. But he did point out that all this will be worth it because you'll have a return on your investment, because you'll have a lot more time to facilitate and differentiate the student needs once your course is complete. So how much time will it take? How much redesign is required? The faculty is concerned about that. One faculty member brought up intellectual property and copyright. What is mine is mine. How will we ensure this? They didn't want their work to be used by others, and they didn't want to use others' work improperly. So what kind of training, what kind of information would be added for that? Technology skills. Do we have enough, and do students need training? Do we need training? How are we going to do that? So those are a lot of the faculty concerns. Dr. Sears was concerned about integrity. How can we maintain the integrity of the class? Dr. Sears used Socratic methods and requires students to meet in small groups to discuss readings and develop a critical attitude towards the content of study. How can this happen online? Of course, there's so much more than materials in there. Dr. Sears was concerned that this would be lost in going fully online. So here's the facts by the end of this brainstorm. Graduate, not undergraduate, so it's different. The level of expectations are a little higher, or a lot higher in some cases. And enrollment must increase in 12 months or the program's going to go away. So either we're going to figure this out and do this, or our program's going to be gone. And then we're going to target nationwide, not local. We'll have a much bigger pool to target, to recruit for these graduate spots. And the faculty is not very experienced, but they're open to online learning. And the faculty has different technology levels of comfort, right? So they're going to need different levels of support. And then the copyright and intellectual property is something that there's definitely going to have to be some professional development for, as well as how to use the LMS program that's decided upon. Okay, so design considerations. How do we change our design from a target audience of 250 to 300 to 25 to 30 students? Do we design, what's our design budget for a smaller class? How complex can our design be? What's the redesign capacity? Is it difficult? What learning design style will best satisfy faculty concerns? So how are we going to approach this? Are we going to have a similar setup in the course? Are we going to have a similar modules or structure of the course? Is everything going to be different? Okay, so John consults Susan, who is his colleague and PhD candidate. Susan has designed graduate courses before, and she shares these considerations with John to share with the team. Front end and design need to allow for content upgrade. Can graduate students help with this? Learning experience for them as well. So she suggests that that we need to have an LMS program that will allow for an updates and content updates, that your course is not going to be done and over with. You're going to have to constantly tweak it and make sure it's running correctly, add it, update it, etc., make it better. And using the graduate students in the program to help with this would be a great learning experience for them as well. So the teachers, the professors could lean on these graduate GAs. Will asynchronous work? And if not, what technology allows for student-professor interaction? And what can you afford in your budget? So now, RHU is a research-based university. The faculty have high demands, and devote time to redesigning courses is needed. So how are we going to deal with the need for time and the lack of time? Like, is there going to be enough time? Are professors going to get paid for this? All that's got to be worked out within the budget. Design-related resources are scarce. Graduate courses are small enrollment courses typically, and learning resources and seminars must be constantly updated. So we're going to need to make sure that we provide teachers with the tools to maintain those courses. And faculty demands a high level of dialogue in seminars. So there's going to need to be some sort of more than just a discussion board, right? There's going to need to be like that live conference or WebEx. We're going to need to buy a subscription to that. And then administrators need flexibility in scheduling. All right, so here's the plan. What would I do in John's shoes? Well, I would choose a user-friendly LMS system like Canvas and provide blending training options for the faculty. I would make sure they understood how to use Canvas, how to build in Canvas. I would have some support in place there for how to create modules, how to create a splash page or a welcome page, how to do a getting started, how to work the discussion boards, how to use conference. I would focus on how to use WebEx or Collaborate, depending upon the budget, for seminars. And since dialogue in a seminar is so important, this will be a place that I would definitely spend the extra money. I think it would help with buy-in from faculty, and I think that was really important to the overall success of the program going online. I would train graduate students as well. I would create shells for the courses, allowing faculty flexibility in modifying these. I would support them in this modification, and I would provide tons of models. Here is what other graduate courses look like. Here's some input on design. Here's some, maybe chunk it up. So, okay, let's try to get our welcome page done by then. Okay, here's the content you want to go in the course. Let's have a work session. So I would just try to lean on experts. Okay. Now, oops. I did, funny, I did the, let me get back, the UDADDY approach, right? I just talked about this earlier, my ADDY and UDL mashup. So both of these plans stress the importance of feedback, evaluation, and assessment. And I really think that both of these are important to engaging students in an online program. The what, the how, and why we learn, and also using the ADDY approach, in which you have a very regimented 5-task approach to your course design, would be very beneficial to taking these courses online. What are the advantages to moving a course online and limitations? Management, the enrollment pool increases from local to nationwide, provides a lot of growth in numbers needed to keep the program alive. The students have more flexibility. Many graduate students have families, other jobs, so going online allows them the flexibility of when and where to work, and it helps increase applicants and thus enrollment. You also can be more selective in enrollment. Faculty also has the flexibility of working with students outside of normal class or office hour windows. Feedback and communication can happen 24/7. The quality of students accepted will improve. More applicants allows the program to be more selective. And then the faculty can grow with enrollment, as some professors could be distance instructors. So if their program grows beyond the scope of what these professors can handle, they can also employ distance instructors who are experts maybe in fields that none of the current faculty are. The disadvantages. The faculty is going to need training, and they're going to need to buy in, and all this takes time. And also the faculty technology comfort levels are varied. So John's got his work cut out for him. And then the LMS and technology to run seminars can be costly, especially for smaller enrollment programs where the budget may be smaller. So there's going to have to be strategic money, spending money in strategic places, and we need to make sure we spend the money on the quality of to really get return on investment. Training will not be limited to using the LMS and seminar choice, but also will include copyright and intellectual property training, which is tedious and difficult. And I've been through a summer course with NCVPS on copyright training, and I'm still a little bit confused on some parts of it. So they're going to have to suffer through that together, but it's definitely important. And then teaching online requires additional tools and skills for the instructor and the student. So differentiating instruction is difficult without adding in the need to differentiate technology training to work in the course. So again, the training needed, the buy-in, the money, the time. Online courses require a lot more pre-course planning and work up front. Instructors have to anticipate and address student issues in both content and technology, not just content, not just learning issues, but the technology as well. And I mean, I've been an online instructor for a while, and it never fails. Even with step-by-step instructions, students will say, "I don't get it. A link doesn't work, or it didn't work right." I didn't, So you have to constantly field those kinds of questions and try to anticipate and be proactive on those. And then a lot of the communication is asynchronous, which makes it harder in some ways. You lose that face-to-face communication cue. What do they say, like 80% of communication is nonverbal, so you lose a lot of that unless you have the video up, right? So again, with the WebEx, with the video of whoever's talking could be really important, and I think Dr. Duggan does a good job of that with our video reflections that we share with our peers, so it feels much more personal. Changing and updating the content to reflect the newest research is ongoing, and that too is time consuming, so trying to help figure out some sort of schedule or some sort of method for making sure that there's time built in to do that. And then the workload expectation and depth of work is higher for graduate programs. So how do you ensure you're doing that in an online program? All right, so copyright laws are complex, very complex, and the only fair use gives educators a little bit of leeway there, but in order to understand this, um, there really needs to be some sort of professional development on copyright laws and the complexity of that, right? Uh, what is fair use? Okay, so fair use means limited copying or copyrighted works for educational purposes when the benefit to society is greater than the cost to the creator. And so these are the questions that should be considered there. Went through those. And then advantages and disadvantages of synchronous communication in online courses. Most of these are known, but the advantages of synchronous instruction is that the instructor can pre-select times and post day one, which allows for maximum attendance. So here's when our meetings are going to be. Mark your calendars. Students and professors get to interact in real time, which is allows for fluid conversation and collaboration with colleagues. It also allows for that so important meaningful relationships created online between the teachers and also between peers. And then synchronous conversation makes the course more personal. It increases connection and relationship between instructor and students to students. The disadvantages: some students won't be able to attend. Even a recording does not allow for full interaction. So but they can still at least, witness what happened, right, in the meeting. Also, managing an online meeting can be a challenge. Some students either don't feel comfortable speaking up or they lack the technology to engage fully, and others monopolize the conversation. So managing an online meeting is much like managing a class discussion, except for you're not face-to-face. One huge advantage is the mute button. I've used it many times. So, and there's limited visual clues. So what's the best mix? Blended is best. So, faculty should include enough synchronous meetings or opportunities so that students feel a personal connection and have time to converse in a natural way. So, I think maybe a weekly meeting is too much. So maybe either bi-weekly or every 3 weeks is a good way to do that. Maybe on the off weeks, make sure you're doing some interaction, that teacher presence is felt for students. Faculty also needs to take advantage of the flexibility of their students all over the nation and allow for asynchronous work and communication to be the real star of the show, in my opinion. That especially in a graduate program where people have, spouses and children and families and a full-time job, like it's really difficult to carve out the time. People need to work when they need to work, so that flexibility is a benefit. We need to monopolize on that, and encourage no more than a couple of synchronous meetings and no less than maybe once every 2 weeks is a good start, and then they can build from there. Hey, we don't need to meet every 2 weeks. Maybe we can just do every 3 or every 4. So the faculty can have the final say on what works best for their course and their students is really important. So every course doesn't have to be the same, and the instructor is comfortable and the instructor is feels confident about what they're doing in their course, then the better. I've had a lot of different styles of teachers. I've had a gaming course, which I loved. I've had a course in which a teacher pretty much, here's the agenda, here's the due dates, good luck, and then there was little to no interaction that was synchronous. I like blended. I prefer blended. But this case study, I love the fact that I was able to say, here's the problem, here's the situation. You as a course designer and educator with experience, how would you approach this problem? Because I think these are real life skills that I would use as an instructional designer, and these are skills that I'm using, even in my course today. I have long-term suspended students. I'm creating a course shell in Canvas. How can I do that to best meet the needs of my student? Here's my limitations. Here's my obstacles. I still have to teach the course. So what do I do to this situation? So kind of that critical thinking, that problem solving, and that overcoming obstacles. Those are all things that employers say our students don't have enough of this day and age. And so by me critically thinking about my course and overcoming the obstacles to meet my students' needs and my course needs within the limitations of what I have is great real world practice. So I really enjoyed presenting this case study and coming up with, what I would do, what my plan would be. My advice to John would be if I were in his shoes, and maybe one day I will be.